When it comes to ranking the bosses in a game like Elden Ring Nightreign, it's pretty hard to find a criteria that works for all. As opposed to Elden Ring, this game is actually designed around having 3 people take on the boss together, and to be honest, I have no interest in fighting and ranking them solo. I feel like the entire draw of this game, being a boss rush, is to do so with your friends or with randoms. Maybe down the line I'll think of doing this as a solo ranking, but currently I don't really have an interest in slogging through a 40-minute run back alone just to try a boss fight. So I'm ranking in terms of their presentation, gameplay, and fun factor when fighting as a group of 3. Let's start with number 8. All of the bosses in this game are at least pretty good, except for Maris. This boss is an exceptional piece of shit, made all the worse by the aforementioned 40-minute run back for every attempt. And when there are unclear mechanics that lead to instant one-shots and no ability to communicate with randoms on your team, well, you have a recipe for disaster. This boss is kind of what I imagine all of you see the Elden Beast as. I will say that there's a really cool atmosphere built by the mystical blue hue of the arena, the ominous piano strikes. There are even components of the fight that are pretty interesting. And those mechanics are fun in a vacuum or when you're with friends, but just doing it for the first time and doing it with randoms is terrible. It's anxiety inducing in a great way when you're queued up with your buddies. Rushing to delete the bubble nuke, slowly descending to earth matches this rushed sense of joy I get from rapidly scaling a cliff as the storm encroaches on me, or the frenzy we all enter as we try to stagger Maris out of its one-shot sleep ability. And yeah, that sense of coordination and panic has a fun element to it, but when you are first trying the boss and die to a one-shot attack that you don't understand from practically across the entire arena, it's not only annoying or disappointing, but it's infuriating. And then you have to play 40 minutes to try again and hope that you've figured it out. And the most realistic counter is to just go Iron Eye and spam the jelly bitch that's floating peacefully away from you. And well, Iron Eye is so goddamn boring to play. It's like playing Mercy in Overwatch or Rocket Raccoon in Marvel Rivals. I swear, you tap R1 1,000 times until the fight is over without hardly taking any damage. And there isn't a lot of variety in the bows, their skills, and their gameplay. I do like how you can damage the tentacles on the ground so melee players don't feel completely left out of the fight, but playing a minigame of hunting tentacles is just so lame when you compare it to the other bosses on this list. Bosses that get everyone involved in an engaging and exciting way. So while in theory some of the mechanics here are fun when coordinating with friends, the execution was poor, and when you actually get to the core of the fight outside of those special mechanics, it's avoiding a few mild splashes of water and chasing it around the arena, or even worse, playing Iron Eye. So that boss was like a 3 out of 10, and now we're going to get to the 7th boss on the list, Gladius, Beast of Night. And there is a massive jump in quality here. Gladius is the first boss you face in your Nightreign journey, and as such, is quite a bit simpler than the others. However, this was definitely a necessity as there are so many new mechanics to learn if you're jumping into this game blind, that this one still took me a couple of tries to beat. Jumping into Night 2's boss at like level 6 is not ideal, but when queuing with randoms who also have no idea how the game really works, it's going to take some time to pick it up. I was really blown away by the presentation of this fight, only to learn that every Nightlord uses the same boss arena, which was pretty disappointing, but it doesn't take away from the awe the first time around. And while the attacks of the boss are quite simple overall, it was really cool to see such a fleshed out new boss after fighting so many repeat enemies from the base game of Elden Ring. I love the visual design here too, such a cool Cerberus look. I love that flailing sword with the chain that it uses to put all the players in the arena in danger. And lastly, my favorite element of this boss is the fact that it splits into 3 during its phase 2 section. This makes it a really cool way to engage all 3 players, with each one taking one on, one person dodging to survive 2 of them while your 2 buddies demolish one, or 3 on 1, because it's chaos. It's a really great way to incorporate the unique elements of Nightreign in the first boss. After fighting this guy, I was pretty confident that it would be in my top 3 or the top few of the game, but then I kept finding better bosses later down the track. The main reason he's really here though is that he's just a little bit too simple, and he's lacking in unique and fun mechanics that the team has to work together to overcome. While splitting into 3 is really cool, it's not quite as cool as some of the options yet to come, and the boss is definitely a pushover once you get a hang of the game and don't come in to fight him at like level 8. Number 6, Gnoster. This was a boss that absolutely infuriated me at first. There was a possibility I was going to place him below Maris. Like, yeah, it was that bad. Me and my friends had no idea why he was so tanky, and after our recluse spent some time trying to attack the butterfly, it just seemed like there was no option for success. The butterfly spams you to no end, it's extremely hard to avoid the scorpion tank resurfacing, there was no riposte to the staggered Gnoster, and the fight seemed to go on for hours. But then we just went 2 Iron Eyes with fire bows and melted the. So yeah, the main reason this boss is this low is that the best strategy is to, again, play Iron Eye. And I just think they need to add some more dynamic combat options for him or other ranged characters that are a little bit more fun. The strategy was so easy to do that it genuinely made the boss a complete joke. It went from seemingly impossible to die. And all we did was position our Iron Eyes on opposite sides of the butterfly, had our tank sit on the scorpion, and shoot away. I think I might have gotten hit like once or twice the entire fight and it was over. So I know that's a lot of negatives, and it definitely is why the boss is down here rather than up at the top. However, I do love that this is really a duo fight done right. And I love that the unique vibe of the battle and soundtrack kind of carries it. It actually sounds hopeful, and I read that you're fighting the last of the species for each creature in front of you. While I don't enjoy playing Iron Eye, it was fun trying to strategize and figure out what, the best tools were to overcome the fight. And I really do love how interactive the boss is. Everyone will have something to do, with huge beams piercing from the sky, the scorpion and the butterfly charging the arena with magic flying every which way. It really gets hype and overwhelming at times. So for the unique vibe, the cool atmosphere, the dynamic attacks, the strategizing, and the teamwork, I have to put this boss here, but learning it can be frustrating, and I don't love that you're encouraged to just spam range as a team because it makes the boss suddenly way too easy. Number 5, Adel. Adel is, to be honest, extremely straightforward compared to the rest of the cast, and I think that that's the only reason he's a bit lower on this list. I'm extremely excited to try the enhanced version later, but for now, he can sit here. A consistent feature that he has, shared with many of the cast, is this rampaging around the arena. It makes every player feel like they could be targeted next, puts you all on your toes, and keeps you screaming in your voice chat as you go, oh shit, he's on me, leave me alone! And that feeling is probably my favorite part of the entire game of Nightreign, having fun while also being like, oh shit, with your friends before he rapidly swaps to the next person and they start screaming. It's such a fun boss fight, albeit a bit simple and straightforward. When he grabs somebody, it's really easy to build up posture damage, poison destroys him, and it makes this fight one of the quickest in the game. However, in Phase 2, his arena-wide hits keep everyone on their toes. He has a higher level of scale and cinematic spectacle in comparison to the other first 4 bosses that creates a higher level of intensity for the fight, and even the music is just louder and more aggressive. In terms of pure, simple, basic fun factor, this guy is definitely near the top of the list, but he's lacking in interesting mechanics and elements which I think keeps him out of that top tier. Number 4, Fulghor. As I was playing through Nightreign, I started to get a little bit worried. This is because I started with Gladius, of course, and then I fought the bosses down that linear order of the list that it's supplied to you in. I enjoyed Gladius, had good fun with Adel, and had a lot of problems with Gnoster and Maris at first, as you heard. So my initial thoughts before I played the bosses all a couple more times was a bit let down by some of the Nightlord bosses, and that was until we got to the second half of the 8-boss roster. One of these bosses that really took the game to the next level was Fulghor, and for many good reasons. One thing is the God of War-esque soundtrack, the masculine chants and the powerful centaur. I loved his rapid speed, which again adds to that intense and anxiety-inducing component I was talking about earlier. He uses his centaur status to rapidly speed around the arena, but always feels in reach to hit. Now this could be because of the added mobility options in Nightreign, from the awesome grappling hook for Wilder, or maybe even the surge sprint for every character. But even as a melee character fighting a rider boss, they somehow nailed it always being super engaging. I love his unique spear weapon as well. And this is all before we even get to Phase 2, which includes a classic FromSoft trope of one extra big cursed arm, i.e. Manus, Cleric Beast, Lawrence. This adds arena AoEs again, just like in the case of Adel, but something about this case feels and functions a little bit differently, like you can jump it and stuff like that. There's a crazy bum rush to try to stun him every time he's charging his spear summoning ability, which brings that extra gameplay and team element that I'm looking for in the best bosses of Nightreign. So pretty much all positives, and I think the only reason he's not higher is that despite the footage you're looking at being from my first run, we still beat him. In fact, I've never lost to this boss, and for a boss based on building off components of war, anxiety, power, and tension, you should pose a little bit more of a threat. However, It's hard to beat the thrill of jumping over one of his arm slams to slash him and try to res a teammate as he dashes around the arena. So a fantastic boss, but just slightly out of the top 3. Number 3, Caligo. While Caligo is one of the easier Nightlords, at least in my experience, perhaps even easier than Fulghor, he dominates Fulghor in one aspect: presentation. There are multiple times on my second or third time beating Caligo that I simply decided to sit there and watch him for a moment. It really felt like a classic Dark Souls moment, fighting a dragon with this OST that just rips at your heart, the twinkling pianos, the heroic strings. And then there are some just really, really unique and cool mechanics that, while they might not all be the most interactive, are just a treat to witness. The summoning of an ice wind around him is just so stunning to see. He's even a feminist in disguise as he creates a glass ceiling just to shatter it moments later. And there's even an attack where he can summon little rocks for you to hide behind while he hurls frost at you. I've only seen that attack once, but I don't have footage of it, but I swear it happened. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that sometimes he's dead so fast that you don't even get to see those coolest attacks. Fire is so easy to come by, especially as somebody who typically plays Wilder. So I don't know how this weakness manifests typically, but I just find him dead without too much sweat usually. But I have so much fun with this fight that it's almost like in that Divine Dragon category of just so cool that I just want to do it again just to see him and be in his presence. And the boss manages to be simultaneously massive, but also easy to track and follow throughout, something that FromSoft doesn't always nail. So this boss is a 10 in many ways, but the actual fight element, like dodging attacks, engaging with the boss, experiencing a fair and rewarding challenge, it's not quite at that S tier for Nightreign. That's down to the final 2. And yes, it was a bit of a toss-up between these two, but I ended up going with number 2, Libra. Libra is the GOAT. I bet nobody's made that joke before. It's clearly a toss-up between this and the first place boss for the best in my list, and they're pretty significantly above the rest of the cast in my mind, as all-time FromSoft greats. Libra is a masterclass in just about every way, from his OST to even his name and theming. I love the option to make a pact with him prior to the boss fight for a buff at a cost, and his unique mechanics are, again, fair and fair as hell. He creates arena-wide frenzy buildup, but also provides you with the tools to alleviate this by running around the arena picking up those little gems he's left for you. He goes to buff himself, but gives you time to destroy those little seals to stop the buff. But if you do this, he'll then go berserk on you. And I love his juxtaposition of like a calm and calculated sorcerer with the unrelenting and the brutal and the bestial. He's even got this absolutely sick and strange soundtrack, unlike anything else in the game, and he's by far the hardest of the game too. It's extremely overwhelming when his spells start stacking with his melee attacks. It can almost be hard to tell what's even going on, but that's not even a complaint. I love the chaos of this fight, fitting for a Madness boss. I will say though, I've never actually entered the fight with a Madness weapon, so I'm not sure if that Madness weakness actually makes him trivial or something, but you know, for my experience, it's been really rough. So for being such a unique character and boss design, creating multiple mechanics to work on as a team, matching this with the brutal difficulty, intensity, and pure exhilarating fun, it's hard not to love this goat man. I suppose if I had to say one complaint, there isn't really much added to the fight as it goes on. From the immediate start, it's pretty much similar to the last 10% of the fight, but I loved it the whole time, so I'm definitely not complaining. But number 1 is Heolstor, the Nightlord. If there was a poster child for the most FromSofty boss of Nightreign, it would definitely be this one. It's clearly playing homage to the best bosses of the series, from the graceful and swinging movement. You can clearly see it's inspired by the likes of Gale, Artorias, Dancer of the Boreal Valley, Pontiff Sullivan, and more. The OST is playing off the best in DS3, and the presentation takes a huge step up here from all the other bosses. But does it live up to those classic bosses? Yeah, pretty much, with one small caveat which we'll get to at the end. From the exact moment Phase 2 started, my entire call was screaming with fanboygasms, and was pumped as fuck. But let's take a step back to Phase 1. I love the slow and ominous walk that the boss takes when it's clearly holding back from its full power. I love the ability to teleport and swap directions at a moment's notice, which makes every player have to be on the edge of their seat from start to finish on the fight. And one minor note is I love that there are 3 weapons held by the boss, which is obviously cool in its own right, but I think it's clearly playing homage to the game itself. If you think about it, we're fighting the boss as a group of 3, and we have 3 weapon slots per hand. So in classic FromSoft fashion, we're kind of fighting like a manifestation of ourselves in some weird meta way. Now, like I said, Phase 2 is freaking awesome and ups the presentation aspect of the fights compared to the rest of the game by a lot. Despite it being in the same arena, the weird, distorted background definitely makes it feel like a totally different place. I have no idea why there's no cutscene here though, because it genuinely throws off the entire vibe. We just teleport suddenly to a different place in the same place with no context. I get that the budget might be slightly different here than compared to Elden Ring, but a cutscene for the final boss of your game seems like a necessity to me, especially when it's transitioning to something new. When he splits the sky open like the Eye of Sauron, I couldn't help but put my fanboy pants on though. Fire and brimstone shooting from the ground as a knight glides back and forth, slicing targets to pieces. It's intense, presented amazingly, and has so many different and unique cinematic set pieces. Multi-swing, arena-wide combos that end in a nuke, constant pressure, and just really fun. Which is why I play games, to be honest. It's like, in terms of pure mechanics and difficulty though, the boss does actually sit slightly below Libra, for example. It's surprisingly a little bit easier. I haven't even lost to him yet, and I feel that they might have missed an opportunity to make him the hardest boss of the game. And this is where I feel like that slight caveat comes in on this boss. Sure, it's up there with the best FromSoft bosses in a lot of ways, but I feel that that enhanced version, whenever that comes out, will be the boss that enters that legendary status. Obviously, I can't know this until I fight him, but that's what I'll be keeping my eye out for eventually, because this one was just a little bit on the easy side. But definitely subscribe if you want to see a ranking of the enhanced versions when they're all out. And what are you guys thinking of Nightreign? Let me know down below. Peace.